You're listening to DraftKings Network.
Smirnoff knows there's no I in football. Football is a we thing, an experience that is best enjoyed together with good drinks and good people. Smirnoff is the world's #1 vodka and is an official vodka partner of the NFL. And this year, Smirnoff is giving fans in select areas of the country a chance to win the ultimate game day experience. From tickets to sideline passes and much more, just head to WeDoGameDays.com until November 15, 2024 to enter for your chance to win. That's WeDoGameDays.com. Smirnoff, we do game days.
Please drink responsibly. Smirnoff number 21 vodka, distilled from grain, 40% alcohol by volume. The Smirnoff Company, New York, New York. Please do not share with anyone under legal drinking age. No purchase necessary. 21 plus. Ends November 15, 2024. See rules at website for participating area and other important details. Sponsored by Diageo Americas Inc., New York, New York.
Warning, this product contains nicotine. Nicotine is an addictive chemical. If you're a smoker or dipper looking to make a change, you really only need one reason to do it. But with Zyn nicotine pouches, you can find many. Zyn is America's #1 nicotine pouch. It's made with only 6 simple ingredients. There are lots of options when it comes to nicotine satisfaction, but there's only one Zyn. Learn more about Zyn and find your reason to make a change by registering online at Zyn.com.
This is the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugotz podcast.
Before we get to some old-fashioned, old guy calls a sports radio station to get stuff off his mind about sports teams, we're going to go to an old-fashioned sports radio call in a second.
Those were the days.
Well, there's still the days in New York because Jerry Seinfeld is calling New York radio stations to make fun of the Yankees and losing. I want to tell you that Gen CFB is going to be on here in a couple of minutes where Lucy and Jess go through all the college football things that we have not gone through so far this week. What are you excited about what you're discussing here with Lucy, Jess? Like, what's the reason that people should be listening to this beyond the fact that it is an ascending college football property?
Well, I asked Lucy what she wanted to talk about this week, and she said she didn't have anything she wanted to talk about. So we talked about the playoff. We talked about Miami and Georgia Tech a little bit.
I know Lucy's always good for that.
Did you guys see the mega targeting in the Miami-Georgia Tech game where the Georgia Tech player's helmet got twisted off with the face mask and then there was like the targeting hit?
Yeah.
Yeah, Lucy missed that, so I tried to explain it to her, and you'll hear that later in the segment. And then we talked about there's a lot of good games this weekend, especially like my eyes are on the Big 12 right now. That league, I feel like anything can happen over the next 3 weeks in the Big 12, and it's going to have a major implication on which team ends up in the playoff. Is it going to be BYU? Is it going to be Colorado? Is it going to be a mystery third option? There's tons of teams still in it.
Dan, you would agree 12.5 against Utah is a little too much. Now the public's back on Colorado. This is where we eat.
I think if it were at Utah, I would be higher on Utah. That's because that's a tough environment. But it's at Colorado, right?
Kansas is also coming online.
Kansas is very interesting. They've lost a lot of one-score games. We will talk about that later. Boom!
Boom!
That was a terrible hit to take.
Should have been 40-yard penalty.
And it also, I learned that a lot of people that watch college football still don't know that you don't have to hit the player in the head or neck for it to count. It's if you lead with the crown of the helmet and make forcible contact. So targeting is still a confusing thing for a lot of people, but this was targeting. It was also a face mask, but I think you can't stack penalties, so it was a 15-yard penalty.
Should have been 45 yards at least.
Yeah, I don't understand why Hurricanes fans in particular don't understand what targeting is. We had Amari Carter on this team. You should know by now.
Let's get to that sound, Chris, of Jerry Seinfeld trolling the sports radio hosts in New York.
Tell me about the pain of the 5th inning. Tell me about that.
Really?
I want to know, what did that
Do I have to go over this with Jerry Seinfeld right now? Really?
Yeah. I want to hear your pain.
Jerry. That is, I'm not kidding.
What was the worst of the 3 plays for you? Which one was the worst? The Judge play was the worst.
Well,
it's a guy, you don't want to see that happen to that guy. He's a nice guy, obviously a great player. And he's tattooed with that moment.
Forever. No doubt. A day hasn't gone by yet that I haven't thought about it for a little bit. In the moment.
It makes me feel so good to hear that. I can't tell you.
And I'm glad I'm pleasing you, Jerry. In the moment.
Yeah, your pain is my pleasure.
Thank you very much.
Have you watched the comeback on on Netflix?
Amazingly enough, it hasn't been at the top of my list. No. I watched Game 7. They have a new documentary out about all different Game 7s, and I watched the Aaron Boone Game 7 to make me feel a little bit better. But no, I haven't watched the debacle that was the 2004. But I got to be honest with you. This hurts more than that.
That means Seinfeld watched it. Seinfeld watched the comeback, guys.
Courtesy of WFAN is that sound.
He asked, I want to know what it's like. I said, it's like the last 40 years of your life, Jerry, rooting for the Mets. Shut up, Mets fan.
Wow, there it is. You've been called out, Jerry Seinfeld, comic icon. Shut up, Mets fan.
That's all he is. When he talks about, I want to know what your pain is like. You know what the pain is like? What's the deal with being a fan of a terrible team? How about that?
That sounded, there was somebody else in there at the end that wasn't Seinfeld. Jessica, we were talking earlier in the show about toughness and whether or not toughness wins. When I associate football toughness with who's going to be tougher at the top, I remember Baltimore and Tennessee playing, Ray Lewis against Eddie George. Baltimore-Pittsburgh. Jay Glazer talks about those facilities and says those are cultures of violence. Cultures of violence. Baltimore and Pittsburgh are regarded as two of the toughest teams in the league, even though Baltimore doesn't play any defense. So can you give us an analysis, even though we don't do previews, of Baltimore and Pittsburgh at the top of the AFC playing each other in a giant game? And this is the rarest thing in football, between two teams we kind of think are good.
Dan, first of all, 1 o'clock game on Sunday. Ravens are a 3-point favorite right now on the road. So Lamar Jackson has been injured for a lot of his time in Baltimore when they played against the Steelers, and he's only 1-3 against the Steelers. So like he's missed a bunch of games and lost a few games. And last year they lost that really weird game against Pittsburgh where there were a ton of drops, and it was just a very weird and unlucky game for the Ravens. But also the Steelers they play really tough defense, and I think we won the argument that we started at the beginning of the show talking about the Steelers defense being mentally tough and physically tough. And this is sort of when you talk about AFC North football, which will be featured on Hard Knocks this season, this is the winning argument right here. Like, these are mentally and physically tough teams, although you're right, Ravens defense, I feel like
we
best.
We flipped Dan on this.
Yeah. It was interesting that we just bypassed the dude that probably would know best. I played there, I played here, we're tougher.
No, the Dolphins deny all those things. Gen
cool podcast, bro.
CFB is next.
Season's greetings, podcast audience. It's Mike Ryan, and now is that time of year where you start hosting your family gatherings, be it Thanksgiving, be it the upcoming holiday season. You're going to have some folks in town. You're going to be doing some entertaining. So why don't you make your family time a Miller time? It's the first thing that I roll out when I got guests over at the house, an ice-cold bucket filled with that beautiful white can. See, Miller time makes family time all the more special because, for one thing, it's got taste that you can depend on. No games, no gimmicks, just a great beer for people who like beer. Miller Lite is brewed for taste. It hits different than other light beers. It's got simple ingredients like malted barley for rich, balanced toffee note flavors and an iconic golden color. And at just 96 calories and 3.2 grams of carbs per 12 ounces, Miller Time is always a good time, even during the festive times. Making memories at year-end gatherings tastes like Miller Time. Go to MillerLite.com/Dan to find delivery options near you. Or you can pick up some Miller Lite pretty much anywhere they sell beer. Celebrate responsibly. Miller Brewing Company, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. 96 calories and 3.2 carbs per 12 ounces. Fewer calories and carbs than premium regular beer.
Stugotz here for my friends over at Simply Safe. The holiday season is right around the corner. That means you're away more, and burglars know it. That means you need to protect your home. Right now, Simply Safe is giving exclusive early access to its Black Friday sale to Batard Show listeners. Simply Safe is the home security I trust to keep my home and family safe. Simply Safe is a new way to protect your home that stops intruders before they break into your home. Old school systems only take action once someone is already inside your home. That's too late. Simply Safe's Active Guard outdoor protection changes the game by preventing crime before it even happens. If someone's lurking around or acting suspiciously, those agents see them in real time, talk to them directly, set off your spotlight, and even call the police before they've had a chance to break in. Simply Safe is offering my listeners exclusive early access to their Black Friday sale. This week only, you can take 60% off any new system with a select professional monitoring plan. This is their best offer of the year. Head to simplysafe.com/DLB to claim your discount and make sure your home is safe this holiday season. Don't wait. This offer won't last long. Keep your home, your family, and your peace of mind protected with Simply Safe. There's no safe like Simply Safe.
Folks, the Emirates NBA Cup is here. You can win big getting in on the action at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. All 30 teams split into 6 groups every Tuesday and Friday, playing for the right to advance to the single elimination in-season tournament, culminating in the NBA Cup Championship in Vegas. Here's something special just for you. New DraftKings customers can bet $5 to get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code DAN. That's code DAN for new customers to get $200 in bonus bets when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings. The crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 and over. Age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/bball.
Dan Le Batard.
He seems like a not nice guy, and he's always been a not nice guy. I don't care for him, and I hope he has the day he deserves.
Stugotz.
I hope he has the day he deserves.
That's how I get people when they're really mean to me. I'm not like, go F yourself. I'm like, I hope you have the day you deserve.
It's a great kind insult. Yes.
It's beautiful.
It's leaving it to the cosmos to sort it out.
That's a less southern, bless your heart.
This is the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugotz.
I believe that it's week 11. I think 11 or 12 or 10 in the range. They all sort to like flow together, but we're in the double digits in the college football season week count, which is crazy. I think it's 11. I don't like it at all. I think we just did 11. I think we're on 12 now, and I don't like it one bit. But also, Lucy, at the same time, the season's like only halfway over because we're going to mid-January now. We have so much left to do, and this 11 weeks and all the remaining probably 11 weeks or 12 weeks or however many are left is brought to you by Cheez-Its, because we are feeling the cheesiest this season. And I think that's a great way to describe this season. It has been cheesy all around.
Cheesy in a good way? Because I don't...
Yeah, cheesy is... There's no bad cheesy. Yeah, cheesy is only a compliment.
Were you cheesing when you watched the college football playoff selection committee show on Tuesday night?
I'm never cheesing when I watch them. Ever. They don't... you know why they say cheese when you take a picture? Because you smile when you say it? Cheese? No. Not when... They don't get to... They're not the cheesiest. They don't get to smile.
Lucy, when I asked you yesterday what you wanted to talk about this week, you were like, there's not a thought in my head. So now that it's been 24 hours, have any thoughts crossed your head about this college football week at large? Do you want to start with your trip to LSU?
Yeah, we can start with my trip to LSU. Would I say that I have thoughts in my brain right now? That's an awesome question. Jess, have you ever been to Baton Rouge?
No, I've never been to the state of Louisiana.
Yeah, well, you should take the week off after. That's the lesson that I've learned. If you go to Baton Rouge and you go to LSU for the weekend, you need a lot more recovery time than I have given myself. I had a blast. I had a really, really fun time. I think it's maybe the most fun I've had on a trip in a really, really long time. Outside of the game, which sucks. So obviously, blowout across the board. That's the only sort of downside of this trip was like, I still don't necessarily really feel like I've seen a night game at Death Valley because, like, this game was over the second Alabama drive. Like, everyone sort of looked around and was like, yeah, we're cooked. This is done. So I didn't really get the full, like, night game Death Valley experience. But outside of that, I had so much fun at LSU. The fans are unbelievable. They're so awesome. They're so funny. They're a very weird bunch in just the most delightful way possible. I enjoyed Baton Rouge. I enjoyed my time there. But yeah, the brain cells are gone. Also, they smoke a ton of cigarettes there. So I have felt it. I didn't smoke any. They didn't offer. So I guess that's sort of the bad part of Baton Rouge. No one offered me one. But yeah, it was a really fun trip. But I got to tell you, my body probably is like, let's hold off a year before you go back.
Did you eat anything good while you were there? Any good tailgate food?
Yes, we had some of the best pork I've had in my life. We could probably find some video of it from our off-roading where LSU's big thing is, they cook the opponent or whatever. So you can't cook an elephant. I mean, you can, but it's pretty messed up. I'm sure you could. Don't try it. I don't want to try it. Don't do it. So they had this pork and they cut it up in a way that it was supposed to look like an elephant. And it was delicious. Everything smelled so good there. It was a wonderful, wonderful place. I enjoyed my time there a lot, even with all the Tiger controversy and stuff like that. But yeah, game sucked ass. Game was terrible.
You also got to
too
see
much
Lehman
good in one
there,
weekend.
which I was very jealous
And we
of.
did.
So LSU loses to Alabama, but Lucy, LSU still ranked in the top 25 of the college football playoff rankings. One of the more egregious rankings, I think, that I saw on the selection show on Tuesday. Was there anything that really stood out to you that you want to talk about before we do our little Week 11 recap? Because aside from LSU and maybe Miami and maybe SMU, there's not too much that I'm upset about.
No, there's not a ton that's really changed. I think the only thing that I'm kind of upset by, which I don't even know how upset I am by it, is Penn State at 4. When Penn State's not the 4th best team in the country, right? No, I don't.
Yeah.
No.
Well, no, but they're ranking off of resume.
It makes.
Penn State's only lost one game, and it's a better loss than Tennessee's one loss to Arkansas. So I guess that's what they're doing. But their best win is
just
Illinois.
Overall, it's just no. Overall, it's just no, that's not right. So yeah, I didn't have any insane takeaways. Most of the discussion I saw was just all these SEC fans being we're screwed. They're screwing the SEC out of things, which I'm pretty sure was them realizing that Bama would go. Which shut the fuck up. The entire.
What?
Yeah. Oh my God.
SEC fans were saying that?
Go online and just look up college football playoff and go to the Twitter, and every single thing is they're out to get us. Ward Manuel is the Nancy Pelosi of college football.
Jesus Christ.
It was
there's 8 SEC teams in the top 25.
I know.
Missouri is still ranked.
Crazy.
LSU. Okay, continue.
Yeah.
Tell me. They're not saying this on Blue Sky, by the way.
No,
which
no,
is where I've migrated.
they're on Twitter, just being they're out to get us, and this is not okay. Which is just and I think it's only because the lead of the playoff committee is a Big Ten athletic director. I think they're just very upset about one SEC team in the top 4. The whole thing is just odd. It seems very much an overreaction, especially because if you still look at this right now, with the exception of the automatic bids, there are no teams that will make it into the top 12 from a conference other than the Big Ten and the SEC. So I don't necessarily know if I agree with that. The thing that really stood out to me, which it sucks because that's one of the reasons I don't love these ranking shows that much, because they get you excited for matchups that most likely won't end up happening. That you mean to tell me that the University of Alabama football team is going to have to take a road trip to Bloomington, Indiana in late December for a college football playoff game? That rules so hard.
Yeah, that would be awesome. But yeah, the SEC outrage, I don't understand why it's that stupid. Is because there's still a bunch of games that are going to be played in the SEC that are going to have huge ramifications for this. So if Georgia wins against Tennessee, seems like they're going to be in no matter what else happens. But the Miami thing was, I thought, surprising because they're still slotted as having a bye week. They're still the highest ranked ACC team. I kind of thought SMU might jump them this week, because if you look at comparing their losses, Miami's loss is worse. It's to Georgia Tech. SMU's is to 9-0 BYU. And then if you compare their common opponents, SMU beat Louisville, Miami beat Louisville. That's Miami's best win. SMU beat Duke by a smaller margin than Miami beat Duke. So I guess maybe that's where they're differing there. But I just was surprised by that. I guess not that surprised. But again, it might not even matter in a week. So I'm not getting too upset about it.
Yeah, it sort of feels to me, it's just kind of the placeholder. And right now we're under the assumption that Miami is going to win the ACC. This is the playoff, not me. So we're just going to keep them in this spot. They will stay here. And when they lose again, if they lose again, we'll just do a little switcheroo. I don't necessarily think they're coming at anything with logic or reasoning because that's just not their real vibe. It's just, I like that logo better than the other one. And so, yeah, Miami, I kind of felt like should have dropped more, especially because that's a bad loss. But also at the same time, like, it's one of the reasons I like the playoff because, like, you aren't necessarily screwed with a horrible loss like you would have been in years past. But then sometimes you want to see teams get screwed by a horrible loss. You're like, dang, what do you mean?
It's nice when it benefits your team, but when it happens to someone else, you're like, this is stupid and I hate this format. And I think every team will experience that at some point with the new college football playoff format. Like Tennessee right now is sitting pretty nice hosting a playoff game because their bad loss was their only loss of the season, and they have a chance to get even higher this weekend if they beat Georgia. So yeah, it's just like whatever. Lucy, I just can't get too upset about it at the moment. I will get upset about it in like 3 or 4 weeks.
Oh, yeah.
So do you want to talk about any other playoff stuff before we move on to week 11?
I don't necessarily know if there's anything that sticks out to me. The thing that, like, my opinion on the playoff rankings, I'm going to get mad about the first one and I'm going to get mad about the last one. But all the middle ones in between, I'm like, You've already, once you set that first precedent, once you make that first rankings, everything is based off of that. Everything will remain based off that. It's honestly kind of sneaky like the preseason poll. Everything remains based off that for the rest of the year. So, like, I'm not going to get too worked up or upset over anything right now. That's on, and that's why it's important to talk to a therapist on a weekly basis. You learn to control your emotions about the college football playoff, specifically, although she's not a big college football fan, so it's hard for her to keep up, but she does her best.
She's like, I don't understand why BYU isn't higher if they're undefeated. And you're like, it doesn't matter, Susan.
It's really don't.
It's fine.
You can tell that I'm out of brain cells today. I hear it in my voice and everything. And if you're going to be mean to me about that, internet, guess what? I don't even have enough brain cells to think about it.
Okay, good opportunity to say mean things to Lucy right now if you're a YouTube commenter. Okay, let's move on to the big games from this past weekend. Miami at Georgia Tech. First loss of Miami season. There was an amazing photo of a Georgia Tech fan taunting a Miami fan, pointing at him and laughing at him, and it was very funny. This was a big win for Georgia Tech at home. Brent Key, he's got Mario's number, Lucy. They did it again. This one was more, I would say, less fluky than the last one. This didn't require like a catastrophic coaching error for Georgia Tech to win. This was a good like ball control, eliminate Miami offensive possessions type game. Georgia Tech ran the ball so well, even with two of their like best running backs out for most of this game. Jamal Haynes went out after he had a big run in the first quarter. So what did you think of this big win from Georgia Tech? And does this change your opinion of Miami at all as one of the best teams in college football?
I never really thought of them as one of the best teams in college football. I thought they were a very talented team. I don't think they're a bad team by any means, but like there's this immediate reaction to this Georgia Tech game. Like every other game that Miami's played this season hasn't followed this same weird, wonky format. They've just been able to pull it out in the end. Virginia Tech could have very easily been a loss with that weird call at the end. Duke was kicking their butt for a little bit. Like Miami's just been messing around all season. The thing with this game is I do sort of wish, just for narrative's purpose, that Georgia Tech hadn't been as like kind of dominant as they were, because I would have liked the Mario Cristobal mess this up sort of discussion, which he did a little bit. It just ended up not mattering.
The timeout was really bad.
It was just so stupid. I wish it had meant more, because then it would have been funnier at the time. But yeah, Miami it's one of those things again where like the ACC has an automatic bids. With the exception of SMU and Miami, things are not looking good right now, and things aren't even necessarily looking particularly good with Miami. So, like, it sucks, but you're still very much in this entire process, but yeah, I don't know. I would not be surprised if Miami lost again, because every single week, if they lost, I would not have been surprised. I wasn't shocked they lost to Georgia Tech. Like, I wasn't.
Well, I think so. Right now, Miami has the tiebreaker over Clemson. Miami and SMU both beat Louisville, and Clemson lost to Louisville. So right now, if the season ended today, one of Taylor's favorite games, Miami would be in the ACC championship game against SMU. But I did want to point out something, which is that Miami's defense in F+, which combines Brian Fremeau's FEI efficiency rating and Bill Connolly's S&P Plus rating. So in F+, Miami on defense has a rank of 51, Lucy. 51 on defense. To find another team with a defensive rating that low, you have to scroll all the way down to the number 31 team in F+, which is North Carolina, which has the 58th best defense in F+ defensive rating. So that is a massive issue if you're a team trying to A, win regular season games, but B, make a run in the playoffs, because they're going to be playing against a lot better offenses after they get through this stretch of, bye week, Wake Forest and Syracuse. So that is a huge problem for Miami, but their offense, of course, number one right now in F+, which is pretty good because they got Cam Ward and Xavier Restrepo, who have helped bail out the defense in a lot of situations. But yeah, didn't happen in this one. There was also a mega targeting penalty in this game. Did you see this penalty, Lucy?
There were 700 targeting calls in this game. We were out tailgating, and it looked like every single time I pulled up the game on my phone, I was like, oh, another targeting review. So I'm not crazy familiar. I remember seeing the one that was called and also the 10 other that worked, but not,
it was crazy.
Not as well.
There was like a face mask, and then the Miami player hit the guy in the chest and his helmet flew off. It was just like horrible. And then there was also
that one.
Georgia Tech linebacker with a neck roll, which was awesome. He ended up getting hurt later in the game. But anyways, this was a really fun game. Great noon game last weekend. Loved it. And yeah, I'm bummed you missed it, Lucy, because it was a lot of fun to watch. But that brings us to another big game from last weekend, Georgia and Ole Miss. Lucy, it looked disgusting at this game. It looked horrible. It was similar to the game you were at, just like nasty, rainy, and disgusting and gross.
We got that. So that weather moved over. So like 3:00 Eastern time, it was in Oxford, and by like 9 in, I guess Oxford is Central Time, whatever. 3:00 Oxford, 9:00 Baton Rouge. So we faced, every time we looked up on the screen, I was like, I can't see anything. Oh my God, it looks so awful there. Georgia's got a quarterback problem. I think we kind of knew that. Carson Beck's not entirely to blame for the loss of this game. I think Georgia's got a ton of issues on offense. Their offensive line isn't great. They don't have receivers that can support Carson Beck. But like, you're also the starting quarterback at Georgia. You got to figure it out. You got to make it work. This is really interesting going into this season, because I kind of always expected Ole Miss to sort of do what they do every year, sneak their way into the top 10 and then just fumble it out of there and just end up in the Peach. I guess the Peach Bowl is now a playoff game, but go to a really respectable bowl, but never sort of take that next step.
Right.
And winning this game was what did that for Ole Miss and what did that for Lane Kiffin.
Yeah, but I think they fumble. I mean, assuming they went out, they had their big, horrible fumble early enough in the season that I think people have already forgotten about it. So that is great for them. But yeah, Jackson Dart, I think we said last week he'd have to have a really good game for Mississippi to win. And he played well, but the Mississippi backup quarterback had to come in for a drive, Austin Simmons. And he also played really, really well in this game because Jackson Dart injured his ankle. So he had to sit out for a little bit. So that was a really great offensive performance. But the real reason I think that they won this game was obviously the defense. The defense was just in Georgia's face the entire game. 5 sacks, 9 tackles for loss, 4 forced fumbles. It was like we said, disgusting out there. And then Beck threw another interception. And the players for Mississippi that are making a lot of these plays, especially with the pass rush, are transfer players that are making a huge impact later in the season. Kirby Smart also said after the game, Lane out coached him, which I thought was interesting. But it was a good game, and I think it's a shame that the biggest controversy to come out of this game is that a Georgia player saw his friends on the Mississippi sideline after the game rush in the field and then started jumping up and down and smiling, and everyone was like, "That's illegal. You should be able to do that."
Yeah. Look, Kirby Smart has given that player more heat than some other players on his staff who have done more serious things. That's all I'm going to say. Seems like I wish we would react to the more serious things happening in the Georgia football program the way we reacted to this kid seeing his best friend from high school. Oh my God, call the cops. Someone was happy for 5 minutes.
He was like, that was a stupid idiot. I was like, okay, whoa. There's also, Lucy, an amazing punt in this game. Probably the best play of the game. Georgia's punter had a really nice punt inside the 1 yard line. But yeah, now Georgia plays Tennessee, which we'll get to in a minute. But first, I think we should talk about Alabama, LSU. I don't actually know if there's that much we need to talk about. Jalen Milroe is just
bad.
Jalen Milroe.
The game is bad.
The game was bad. LSU, like Brian Kelly afterwards was like, people are going to watch this game and wonder what we worked on for the last 2 weeks because our defense still couldn't stop the design QB run game / mobile quarterback game. And he was right. That's exactly what everyone was thinking.
I mean, you guys spent so much time worrying about getting a Tiger on that field, and you had you didn't even use the Tiger appropriately. You should have just opened the cage. After the third Jalen Milroe, just like 70-yard run or something, open the cage, let the Tiger out, then let it all be handled. Yeah, it was just a horrible, awful game. It was over as soon as it began. LSU, I think their defensive coordinator is the highest paid DC in the country. Gotta probably reevaluate that. Just awful across the board. It sucked. But once again, loved my time in Baton Rouge.
Yeah, and I love when Jalen Milroe has a game like that, 185 rushing yards, 4 touchdowns, including that 72-yard scoring run. And Garrett Nussmeier had a brutal game. He's had 6 turnovers in the last 2 games, Lucy. That is not great.
Those are Carson Beck numbers.
It's not good. So before we move on to this weekend's game. Do you say this weekend or next weekend? The upcoming weekend's games. BYU almost lost to Utah. And we already talked about the athletic director getting really pissed and like saying that the game was stolen from them. But there was some bad clock management in this game, Lucy, and it came down to a 44-yard game-winning field goal with 4 seconds left for BYU to remain undefeated.
They have had some, I think BYU deserves, to be where they are. You're undefeated. I don't care how you win games, being undefeated and incredibly impressive. They have just had some fluky stuff this year. I look at the Utah game and I look at the Oklahoma State game. Things have just gone their way. Dare I say, God on their side.
That is you could be right. The offense, F+, same rating we were just talking about, combining FEI and S&P+, 36 right now. And that's a team that is ranked in the top, top 6 in the college football playoff? Yeah, so that's interesting. They have a tough schedule coming up, too. The Big 12 is really weird. We'll get to that. But do you think they're going to stay undefeated until the Big 12 championship game?
I know they're at Arizona State in 2 weeks. Arizona State has done some really incredible things with their program this year and the way that they've turned around. And it probably was one of the worst situations inherited by a new head coach with Kenny Dillingham, just with all the NCAA violations. Everybody's gone. It was just really messy there. But Arizona State's played incredibly well this year. It's definitely the feeling of a trap game. BYU has just been... They have gotten really lucky this year. They've had a lot of close wins. They deserve all of it, but I do see them potentially slipping against Arizona State in 2 weeks. I believe they also have Kansas this weekend and then Houston in 2 weeks. Houston has started to figure things out, and Kansas coming off a huge win against Iowa State.
Yeah, Kansas is one of those teams that their record is pretty bad, but they've also lost a ton of one-score games and been a little unlucky. And the last few weeks have seemed to sort of figure it out a little bit more offensively. So that, I think, is going to be a really interesting game this weekend. We are getting nutty with Hampton Farms Peanuts, the official snack nut of the tailgate, Lucy, and they're sponsoring our Week 12 preview. So we already talked about this exciting BYU-Kansas game, but there is also another exciting SEC game, which I think we've said every single week this year, Georgia and Tennessee. That is going to be the big game of the weekend. I think Georgia needs to win this game. And if they do, there is going to be a lot of 2-loss teams in the SEC, and everyone's going to be really confused and angry about it.
Yeah, this game matters a lot more for Georgia than I think it does Tennessee. One, because Georgia needs to figure things out. Something that was really weird that I didn't realize going into this game, this is Georgia's first home game in over a month. This is Georgia's first time hosting a ranked team in over a year. It has been a really long time since Athens has had a big game. So I think the vibes are going to be really high. I think Georgia wins. Also, Nico is in concussion protocol right now. It seems like he's going to play.
Yeah, they said he practiced on Monday, but he went out of the game pretty early this past weekend with a quote-unquote upper body injury that they then said was a concussion. So that's
technically upper body.
Yeah,
your head's at the top.
True.
That's the most upper.
I like that this game is in Athens, Lucy. Georgia, just a great home atmosphere. I think they're going to win this game. I think they're going to win this game, and I think it's going to make the college football playoff rankings an even bigger mess than it already has been.
And yeah, the thing with Tennessee is this is not the normal. Tennessee is a very good team, but their offense really struggles, and I kind of think Georgia's defense will make things. They'll go Georgia's way. Fingers crossed. I don't know why I really want Georgia to win this one. I think it's just because I'm going to be there. I don't know.
Oh, you are? I didn't know that.
I am.
Fun.
Yes, we are going to be there, and we're going to be in the stands. So I want everyone to be happy. I want the vibes to be good around me. Unless I sit in the Tennessee section, and in that case, I'll root for Tennessee.
Yeah, there was also Dylan Sampson looked like he got banged up against Mississippi State this past weekend. So hopefully he's healthy, because obviously like the Tennessee offense is not the offense we were picturing when the year started. They've sort of like been more of like a power run game offense, and they've been more successful running the ball. So I think that if he's healthy and if Nico's healthy, Georgia is probably going to keep it a low scoring game and like sort of just beast it out at the end. So we'll see about that one. But we also got some other really good games, Lucy. We got Clemson and Pitt, which is like kind of low-key, kind of interesting. Tulane and Navy, which has massive implications in the American Athletic Conference. We have Utah and Colorado, which every Big 12 team is sort of in the mix right now because anything can happen over these last 3 weeks. And then we have LSU and Florida, which if DJ Lagway is healthy, that could be interesting. That could be a really weird game.
Yeah, it's the thing with DJ Lagway, I'm so happy he's healthy. The way he went down in that Georgia game, I was like, he'll never play the game of football again.
Yeah, it looked terrible.
It looked terrible. And then when they said he's questionable for Texas, I was like, what are you talking about? Kind of unbelievably demoralizing loss for Florida against Texas last week. I really cannot talk. It's been a day. They kind of need this one. This is weird vibes. I wouldn't be shocked to see if something weird happened. It's in Gainesville. I've also got my eye on Missouri, South Carolina. I think South Carolina is going to win, though.
Yeah, I think Missouri has been terrible against like every good offense they've played, and South Carolina statistically has been a pretty good offense, even though they've had a ton of injuries and stuff. And we know their defense is good, and their defense has won them a bunch of games. But like barring Shane Beamer doing something really weird in the first quarter of this game, I think South Carolina will win that game, and Missouri will finally exit the top 25 rankings. Sorry, Eli Drinkwitz. I know that you were very happy to put yourself back in the conversation after that Oklahoma win, but I'm ready to kick you right back out.
Crazy. I think South Carolina wins. I feel pretty good about that one. It's like a weird weekend where there aren't the like total normal marquee matchups we were used to. Like it's pretty much just Georgia, Tennessee. But the last time this happened, it was a blood week. So I'm not saying it's going to be a blood week, but blood week is always on the table. You know, every week could be a blood week, but I'm not saying that.
Well, we will be here to talk about whatever the week, blood or non-blood week. We will be here to talk about it next week. Lucy, have fun in Georgia. Enjoy Athens.
Thank you. I'm a little nervous because the LSU, the brain cells are gone. I feel like Athens might also lead me to that dead space.
Be the final nail in the coffin.
We're going to Harvard, Yale next week. I kind of wish we had switched the two. It would have been a nice little breather.
All right, well, have fun. And if you like the show, subscribe, follow, send us a message. Tell us what you want us to talk about. We're always here.
Season's greetings, podcast audience. It's Mike Ryan, and now is that time of year where you start hosting your family gatherings, be it Thanksgiving, be it the upcoming holiday season. You're going to have some folks in town. You're going to be doing some entertaining. So why don't you make your family time a Miller time? It's the first thing that I roll out when I got guests over at the house, an ice-cold bucket filled with that beautiful white can. See, Miller time makes family time all the more special because, for one thing, it's got taste that you can depend on. No games, no gimmicks, just a great beer for people who like beer. Miller Lite is brewed for taste. It hits different than other light beers. It's got simple ingredients like malted barley for rich, balanced toffee note flavors and an iconic golden color. And at just 96 calories and 3.2 grams of carbs per 12 ounces, Miller Time is always a good time, even during the festive times. Making memories at year-end gatherings? Tastes like Miller Time. Go to MillerLite.com/Dan to find delivery options near you. Or you can pick up some Miller Lite pretty much anywhere they sell beer. Celebrate responsibly. Miller Brewing Company, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. 96 calories and 3.2 carbs per 12 ounces. Fewer calories and carbs than premium regular beer.